I understand the roles between a man and a woman. Nowadays a lot of roles are blurred.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if they're blurred, then the relationship is blurred. But my point was getting my 16-year-old daughter to understand this in this world and in this environment has been a challenge because she listens to the music.
Yeah.
And women's rights, and I believe in women's rights. I don't believe in the equal part of it because we can't be equal. But she believes in this.
Yeah.
And then to come home and watch her mom do something that she doesn't necessarily see, it's just challenging, you know.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you. Why are women so violent toward men now?
Why are women so violent toward men?
And speaking of domestic violence.
Because women are biologically, scientifically, factually more emotional.
Yeah.
And I think we have a harder time controlling our emotions. I don't think a lot of women like to accept that because a lot of women want equality. But we can't look for equality because we aren't equal.
Yeah.
And if you understand that dynamic, then you understand the difference between men and women. And women are just more emotional, which is why we can...
So when you say that, how do they respond to that?
Because
that's the truth.
Yeah, they don't like when I say that because a lot of women are being brought up to not need a man and to outshine a man and to be an equal to a man.
Yeah.
And when you're raised that way, then you don't... That's what you know. That's part of your character trait. It's just that's all you know is I'm either equal or better than you.
Yeah.
If you think you're equal, then you don't understand that we're more emotional. It's a scientific fact that we're more emotional.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So were you raised that way? Why are you so solid with that? You understand that so clearly? Because it's hard for most women to understand things.
I think a lot of it is just logic.
Yeah.
Just be logical.
Yeah.
And I was raised with both my parents
and
my grandparents on both sides were very involved in our lives, and our uncles, and I'm the third oldest of 8 children. And, you know, I didn't grow up in the best conditions. I grew up in the South Bronx of the projects. But, you know, as you grow up and you learn and you pay attention and you just have to, it's life. And it's either you're going to live in a fairy tale or you're going to be logical.
Yeah.
And I learned that, you know, being logical is the best for me.
Absolutely.
And
amazing.
I appreciate that sister saying that. And, you know, y'all know I haven't done a Jesse Lee reaction for my first time. I do watch Jesse Lee. A lot of y'all may not like Jesse, but, you know, Jesse is all about shock and awe. So amazing. Ladies, if a lot more of you would think logically, and I know it's what she said, you know, when it comes down to science, you know, biologically, all these things, women lead with emotions instead of logic. Logic is one of those things where when women tend to say, I don't understand men, or I don't understand why men are like this and this, that, and men are it's just logically, we are who we are. And it's not hard to understand men. But when you get to the point which I talk about equality, so coming from a standpoint of creation, in the sense, men and women are equal, but they're different. Women try to make it seem like they can do everything a man can do, so on and so forth. We've learned this through, you know, sports now, and just physically in the workplace, all these other things from that physically demanding jobs. Women are, if I think, shout out to my mentor, O'Shea. If it comes down to, if all men were just to take a day off across the world, imagine what would happen. When it comes to sports, you know, you got dudes competing in women's sports, you know, and women are getting blown out the water when it comes to that. It's the delusion is just crazy to think. It's completely different. It's not equal in that playing field. It's not equal just all across the board. But in terms of me looking at it from a spiritual aspect, equal, man and woman are equal but different. When it comes to certain things obviously women can't do. And it's only a few things that, you know, women can do that men can't do. You know, but that's the beauty of the sexes and the genders in terms of this. So, gender and sex isn't the same thing. I got it. Anyway, man, let's get back to it.
Yeah.
It's amazing because it's hard to find logical women nowadays. When I was growing up, women more logical then than they are today.
Yeah.
And it is because of the way that they are taught now,
Right.
that they're equal to men and they're this and that. So they're not thinking for themselves.
Right. I mean, if you look at society, if you look at the music, if you look at the movies, it all indirectly teaches women it indirectly teaches women, especially at a young age, that we are equal.
Yeah.
And then you grow up with that mindset, and it, can directly or indirectly affect everything, your relationships, your parenting, just like I have a 16-year-old daughter, and I combat with her often because I'm married and I can make my husband a plate of food. And she would say, well, why do you make his food?
Wow.
And I would say, well, because I like making his food.
Yeah,
the
that's
same
right.
way he takes out the trash or he gasses up the cars. But he can make his own food. I said, well, you can make your own food too.
Yeah.
But I make yours.
That's right.
Because
That's amazing.
I understand the roles between a man and a woman. Nowadays a lot of roles are blurred.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
And if they're blurred, then the relationship is blurred. But my point was getting my 16-year-old daughter to understand this in this world and in this environment has been a challenge because she listens to the music.
Yeah.
And she goes to the school with the friends and she watches the movies where everybody's like, we're eating.
And that's where it goes wrong. Outside influences, regardless of how you try to rear your children. You see what this lady's talking about. She's rearing her daughter and trying to reel her back in to understand that there are roles, there's a certain dynamic within family, what the husband and wife plays, what the mother and father plays, and you hear your kids spend time and watch television and around these other kids who come from single parent homes where the mother probably talks trash about men all day, and there's no concept of the father role, the male role in the household, and the mother is trying to lead both of them and talk down on men. So when you come to, well, why do you fix this plate? Why do you do this? Why do you do that? Oh, you're doing the most. That sounds too much like slavery to me. All this stuff that keeps going on that you hear from these women that, they'll say crap like this, and it's just weird to me, man, how this comes about. So we have to get more in tune with these things, and definitely what she said, coming from a 2-parent household, and especially with the grandparents being around and things like that, it makes a huge difference.
Equal and women's rights, and I believe in women's rights. I don't believe in the equal part of it because we can't be equal, but she believes in this.
Yeah.
And then when to come home and watch her mom do something that she doesn't necessarily see, it's just challenging,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you are also a motivational speaker. Do you talk about these things when you're speaking, giving your talks and things?
I talk about these things, but then I also talk about just growing up and not having.
Yeah.
And getting from that point to where I am now and understanding that there's still so much more work to do because people just, they don't believe that you can come from nothing.
Right.
And then when they see you get to where what they believe is success, I like to go back and humble myself and remind them that there's a lot of work that goes into it, but it is possible.
Absolutely.
So that's where the motivational speaking comes in, and I try to speak life and love into people and just, remind them that anything is possible. You just got to be prepared to work for it.
That's right.
Just come in your lap.
I watched a couple of your comedy movie videos there, and in your movies you curse and you rough and you all over the place, but you seem so different here. And I was a little surprised. So is it just an act? I know it's an act, but how are you able to curse like that and do what you do and be so logical?
You have to learn to adapt to certain surroundings. You can't be everything everywhere. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like who I am at home is not who I am.
And it's like sometimes you have to deliver the medicine through the candy. I'll put the medicine in the candy at the end of the day.
I am in the street, and I know people would say, you can be yourself anywhere, around everybody, but you can't. And you have to know when to be what and where.
No, go ahead.
So on stage, I am I'm on stage, I'm performing.
Right.
I am, and there are times I don't curse, and then there's times I curse a lot. You know, I do church shows, I do weddings, and then there's times I do a show in Compton, you know, and it's a whole different ball game. So it's just one of the parts about being logic and understanding life is learning when to be where.
Right.
And what to be and when. So I just adapt to where I'm going to be at.
So it's not like you are personally changing in these roles. It's that you doing what needs to be done for the role.
Yep.
But you're not. You're still you. Makes sense. That's amazing.
It's God's beat maker.
And I don't know. I will put a light in the sky for the G's that done turn memory from go. Blessings we send to the ghetto youth them.